AskReddit by savings ad 4748. What is the most underrated invention of all time? Micrometer, a device that allowed for standardization and really built the modern world. If you're a nerd like me with metrology, I highly recommend reading Exactly by Simon Winchester. The axle. The wheel isn't that difficult. Attaching it to the cart reliability was the real game changer. Differential is a big part of this too. Allowing the wheels to turn at different speeds made cars much more maneuverable. I heard an interview with a professor who was over 100 and had lived through the invention of so many of the things we take for granted today. When asked what was the most groundbreaking invention in his lifetime, he said, without hesitation, sticky tape, around 1930. He said before there was good adhesive tapes, everything was just a nightmare to fix, literally, and it was useful in so many ways we couldn't even fathom what a change it was, especially since it was relatively cheap and could be used even by poor people during the Depression to fix broken household items themselves. Old-timey packages were basically glued together, either with hot glue or wax, or that kind of paper tape with water-activated adhesive. Container box. Standard sized metal box looks boring, but before it you had to move cargo one by one, often by human hand and back. After the invention in 1960s, global trade grew exponentially, replacing dock workers with giant cranes. Countries like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan and China built their economic model centered around exporting goods in container box, replacing lot of traditional manufacturing jobs in West. So yeah, boring metal box affected geopolitics more than atomic bomb. Theft was a major problem too. There was a saying that a dock worker's pay was his salary plus anything he could carry. Shower. I was gonna say the toilet, but shower works for that as well. The shovel. Its invention was groundbreaking. Oh, sod off. Ballpoint pens, zippers. Seconding the ballpoint pen. Writes in ink without leaking, mostly, lasts forever, and so cheap that a lot of places print their logo on them and give them away for free. Sewing. People talk about the wheel and agriculture all the time, but sewing should be up there. Need some clothes? Want your body to ever recover from a deep cut? Gotta invent sewing first. It's not just clothes. With a simple needle and thread we were able to make bags and sacks to help us carry things over great distances. We created sails for our ships. Bind books. Suture. Think of how many people died simply because we didn't have the means to suture their wounds. Sewers. And their sewing kits. String. You take two pieces of plant matter and rub them together and get a bigger string that's stronger than each one that's separate. Do that a few dozen times. Now you can sew, make a bow, tripwire, fishing line, clothing, knots. That's a whole different invention. Catapult, stitches for wounds, make a bridge, ladder, etc etc. There is a quote suggesting that string is the most useful and used invention that most people never think about and might have been one of the most important things made by humans that separate us from other animals. https://www.thego-audion.com/science/2020/org/mammoth-tusk-drill-holes-make-rope-change-stone-age. Ctrl+Z. Autosave. Thermos bottle. Put in cold liquid, it stay cold. Put in hot liquid, it stay hot. How do it know? Is it smart? The transistor. Most of the general public do not understand how important this little electronic is. It is not underrated though. Most people don't know what it is, so they can't rate it. For those wondering, transistor is the first controllable semiconductor invented. We discovered fast, reliable, easy to control and transmit nature of digital. Modern dentistry. Condom. It has prevented millions of STDs and HIV infections. Also many unplanned pregnancies. Penicillin. Yeah, I know people commonly understand its impact, and I'd still say it's underrated. It was a miracle in its time and set the groundwork for all infection-fighting medicine that followed. Same with insulin. Tin cans. The washing machine. https://yahoo.be/bzokfap4g4w. I knew what the video was before clicking on it. Every one of his TED Talks are great. Glass. Everyone takes it for granted because it is so common, but think of all the ways it is used. Windows, insulation, electronics, decorations, art, and endlessly recyclable. Microscope. Not underrated in the scientific community, but in general maybe. Microscope, you say? I'll look into it. Shoes, footwear. Paracetamol. It's just so good at what it does and is practically free. Absolute wonder drug. But still one of the biggest killer drugs. The reason is that if you take slightly more a day than your body can flush out, it builds up, and many people use paracetamol for months or even forever. Some take too much, some take the right amount, but in addition to other medication containing the same stuff, 100,000 people suffer paracetamol poisoning every year in the US, and it is on the top of the medicine overdose list in the UK. Plastic doesn't get anywhere near the credit that it should. Electronics would be pretty much non-existent without it. Drink cans aligned with it. Cars, appliances, medical uses, etc. Unfortunately, it's causing all sorts of pollution, but modern life really wouldn't exist without it. The toilet. We literally use it every day, but we give it no respect. Imagine what life would be like if we were still shitting in buckets and throwing them out the window. Tinned canned food. Helped a lot of people in tough times.